Hi, what do you want in life? Do you have goals, wishes, and dreams? Is there something you want to achieve, like your passion in writing, your love for music, your calling as an artist, or even a mere dream? If there is, you have to stay and listen to what we are going to talk about today: The Alchemist. This is a remarkable story about chasing and making dreams come true. Our fate is already written by the powerful one who wrote everything, but the choice remains in ourselves whether to pursue it or to continue just dreaming. One of my personal favorite lines in the story is, "It's the possibility of having a dream come true that makes life interesting." Are you excited? Well, let's start by knowing the one who wrote this masterpiece, Paulo Coelho.
Paulo Coelho de Souza is a Brazilian lyricist and novelist. He is best known for his novel The Alchemist. In 2014, he uploaded his personal papers online to create a virtual Paulo Coelho Foundation. Paulo Coelho was born in Brazil and attended a Jesuit school and was raised by devout Catholic parents. He determined early on that he wanted to be a writer but was discouraged by his parents who saw no future in that profession in Brazil. Coelho's rebellious adolescence spurred his parents to commit him to a mental asylum 3 times, starting when he was 17. Coelho eventually got out of institutional care and enrolled in law school but dropped out in the 1970s. After drifting among several professions, Coelho changed his life's course while on a visit to Spain in 1986 at the age of 39. In 1987, Coelho wrote a new book, The Alchemist, over the course of 1 to 2 weeks' spurt of creativity. The allegorical novel was about an Andalusian shepherd boy who follows a mystical trick in which he learns to speak the language of the world, and thus receives his heart's desire. The book attracted a little attention at first, until a French language translation suddenly leaped onto a bestseller list in France in the early 1990s.
This time, let's learn its summary.
The story revolved on a young boy named Santiago who had a recurring dream that troubles him every day. In his dream, a child tells him to seek treasure at the foot of the Egyptian's pyramid. Santiago consults a gypsy woman to interpret the dream, and to his surprise, she tells him to go to Egypt. Melchizedek convinces Santiago to sell his flock and set off to Tangier. It is because Santiago is a shepherd and selling his flocks would give him money to go to Egypt. When he got there, all his money got stolen, so he worked in a crystal store, and there he met the kind merchant. The conservative and kindly merchant teaches Santiago several lessons, and Santiago encourages the merchant to take risk with his business. The risk pay off, and Santiago becomes a rich man in just a year. After a year of working in the merchant's store, he asks his blessing to leave the shop and follow his personal legend, and the merchant gives his blessings to Santiago. He joins a caravan crossing the Sahara Desert toward Egypt and meets an Englishman who's studying to become an alchemist. Along the way, they encountered news of war. The caravan must make an extended stop in Al-Fayum. Santiago falls in love with Fatima, who lives at the oasis. Santiago was in trouble whether to pursue his personal legend or stay at the oasis and live with Fatima. The alchemist convinced him the possibilities. If he chooses the latter, he will be great in the following years of staying at the oasis. However, he will be haunted of the thoughts of not following his personal legend if he chooses to stay at the oasis. That night, Santiago talked with Fatima, and she assured him that she will wait for his return. Santiago then set off to find his treasure and follow his personal legend. Although they encountered troubles along the way, he was able to set his foot in Egypt. Santiago begins digging for the treasure at the foot of the pyramids, but 2 men accost him and beat him. Before leaving, One of the men tries to illustrate the worthlessness of dreams by telling Santiago about his own dream. It concerns a treasure buried in an abandoned church in Spain where a sycamore tree grows. Santiago couldn't help but burst into tears because what the man said was the answer to his dream. His treasure was hidden in the abandoned church where he used to sleep along with his sheep.
So now we will proceed to the literary elements. So the first one is characters. So these are the characters of the story. Santiago. He is an adventurous young Andalusian shepherd determined to fulfill his personal legend. The Alchemist, a 200-year-old, extremely powerful alchemist. Merchant, a good-hearted devoted Muslim who, however, is scared of change. Fatima, a beautiful and chaste young desert woman. Gypsy, read palms and employs black magic iconography. Melchizedek, the king of Salim that appears to possess magical powers. Camel driver, a friendly former orchard owner and devout Muslim. Merchant's daughter, the daughter of the merchant who buys wool from Santiago, Santiago's father, a loving father who allowed his son to be a shepherd. And the last one is the chieftain of Alfeum who lives in luxury. So after the characters, we will move on to the settings. The settings are in Spanish pastures, the Spanish town of Tarifa, the North African city of Tingir, and the Sahara Desert. And after the settings, we will now move on to the plot. Exposition. Santiago seeks refuge in an abandoned church where we learn he owns only a book, a jacket, and sheep. Through Santiago's musings on his journey to reconnect with the girl he met the prior year. He's in the countryside in Spain and attended school because his family wanted him to be a priest. Rising action. Gypsy meets Santiago's dream, and Santiago makes a series of material sacrifices in order to pursue his personal legend of reaching in the Egyptian pyramids. Climax. While being healed by warring tribesmen in the Sahara Desert, Santiago struggles to turn himself into the wind. Falling action. Santiago arrives at the pyramids, but the leader of these robbers states that he used to have a dream about treasure being buried under a big oak tree, beside the ruins of a church where the shepherd boy came from. Resolution. When Santiago heard the leader's words, he returned to where he came from. He discovered the treasure under the tree and went to meet his woman Fatima with his abundance of wealth. So the theme of the story is the centrality of personal legends. The motive is to chase a dream. The narrative point of view is third person. The symbolism are Santiago's sheep, which represent the kind of life led by those who are completely unaware of their personal legends. The desert, it represents the serious difficulties that await anyone seeking their personal legend.
For the literary devices, the story have personification. Personification is the representation of an abstract idea in a human form. Example lines for this is, "Speak to the hand that wrote all," said the sun. "I weep for the narcissus," the lake replied. "You must love the desert, but never trust it completely, because the desert tests men. It challenges every step and kills those who become distracted. I can learn something from the desert too. It seems old and wise." The sun and the lake cannot literally talk, thus making it a personification. The same with the last two examples. Next, the story have metaphor. Metaphor suggests likeness, or the analogy between two things. One of the best examples from the story is the desert is a capricious lady, and sometimes she drives me crazy. The desert is not a lady, which means that this line is a metaphor. Another example is when someone makes a decision, he is really diving into a strong current that will carry him places that he had never dreamed of when he first made the decision. This line signifies that when we make decision, we are like a diver that dives into a strong current. This time, let's learn these terms that we will encounter when we read the story. First, we have personal legend. It is one's reason or purpose for existence. Maktub, an Arabic word which means it is written. Omen, signs of what will happen in the future, may it be good or bad. Elixir of life, a hypothetical substance believed to maintain life indefinitely. Universal language, language understood by all, whether living or not. Soul of the world, it unites humans through nature and governs everything as one. The philosopher's stone, a small silver of stone can transform large quantities of metal into gold. Beginner's luck, it is the first taste of success. Now let's try to analyze the story by answering the question, how did the story define personal legend? In the story, there were 5 different things that the writer used to define personal legend. First as a wealth, next as a wisdom, a journey, a growth, and a choice. The author wisely used symbolisms, settings, figurative languages, as well as characters to portray different perspectives of what personal legend really is. Let's start with wealth. Santiago's personal legend, the treasure, can be unarguably understood by its surface meaning, which is wealth. The author utilized the part where the boy met a gypsy woman to emphasize that personal legend is a wealth. The gypsy said the line, "There you will find a treasure that will make you a rich man." The woman did not interpret his dream for free because she wanted to help, but because she wanted to get tip from the boy's hidden treasure. Furthermore, the word rich could be linked to wealth. Thus, she interpreted his dreams because she wanted to get a part of the treasure for her own intention. The meaning can be taken out of the gypsy's perspective is the worldly satisfaction or the mere surface one. Second, the existence of King Melchizedek in the story is quite an obvious evidence of personal legend as a wisdom. He thought about how one's personal legend can be achieved through understanding omens and how many people stopped following their dreams because they're disappointed after their beginner's luck. Omen was defined in the story as the signs for a person to determine whether there is a good or a bad thing coming, and a beginner's luck, also known as the principle of favorability, was defined as the first taste of success. It is also where every dreamer starts their journey. These 2 things that the king have taught the boy are just some of the wisdom he imparted. He also secondly revealed that his treasure is in Egypt. The extraordinary wisdom that he showed is when he knew almost all of the things in the world, such as the boy's background and the baker's dream, even if they have not shared their information to the king. Thus, this proves that personal legend can be a wisdom. Third, personal legend as a journey was shown in the life of the Englishman. The Englishman spent years in discovering how lead can turn into gold and spent time for a quest looking for the alchemist. The author also used the setting to incorporate the idea that the Englishman's perspective, personal legend was a journey. Coelho, the author, made the two characters meet in a caravan. In connection, caravan can be interrelated to pilgrims or journey. He was determined to travel mile for mile just to meet the man he wanted to ask for knowledge. Fourth, one can uncover their personal legends through giving importance on one's growth. In the line, the alchemists spent years in their laboratories observing the fire that purified the metals. They spent so much time close to the fire that gradually they gave up the vanities of the world. They discovered that the purification of the metals had led to a purification of themselves. This signifies that, in order to achieve their legends, they must take time to learn and grow. The phrase, purification of themselves, was used by the author to give the readers the idea that they had not only have what they wanted, but also it gives way for each to be better than before. Lastly, it is clearly stated in some parts of the story that not all can achieve their legends. These persons are the robbers in Egypt and the baker. This implicated the thought that people can choose whether to pursue their legends or to forever hold their peace. The word maktub was first introduced when the boy met the crystal merchant. Though someone's legend was already written, it does not mean that it will really happen. After hearing those, we can learn that each characters have their unique roles. They have different perspectives that the writer need in order to reveal what personal legend is. Before we end, I'd like to recommend this book for you to read and learn lessons in life. Thank you very much for listening.